Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Mark Schumacher, the CEO of the Home Furnishings Association, and this, no matter when you watch it, this is the first webinar of 2023. We got a lot planned for you this year, and I'm just glad you're here to join us. And we're starting out really strong today. We're going to be talking about sales management and really laser focusing on the setting of goals and training of goals. So KPIs, things are so very, very important. But before we go any further, I've got to do a little bit of house cleaning here. On the right side of your screen, you're going to notice there's a little chat box there. If you have questions, type them in, send them in, and we'll do our best to get to them. We, of course, have the lists of those questions that many of you put in advance when you signed up for the webinar. We'll be getting to those as well. And I would be remiss not to mention to you that one of the best pages on our website is myhfa.org/webinar, because every webinar, this one will be included, are there. They're in a library, and I don't think there's a subject that you would want to know for your business or getting insights on any aspect of your business that isn't there. So please make that a regular stop, and feel free to share the information there and share links to the webinars, you name it. So as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about setting sales goals. And this is some interesting things I just want to mention off the top here. That it says that salespeople who have goals are 50% more productive than those without them. And goals also help you as the owner of the business or the person running the sales staff. It gives you a definition of success, allows you to measure performance. It is critically important. And so that's why we've brought this panel together today. And we have three very skilled retailers with us today that have a focus on sales. We have Bill Kretz joining us. He's Director of Sales from Home Trends. He's been there for over 17 years. And so you've seen a lot on the sales floor. So Bill, thank you for joining us. Justin Padden is also joining us. He's Director of Sales and Training for Georgia Furniture Mart. And he's been there over 22 years. And looking at you, Justin, I would say they hired you out of middle school, but we'll leave that for another day. We have Jody Ottle joining us. She's the General Manager and Vice President of Sales for Interiors Home. And she's been there for 35 years. Definitely a middle school program that you were hired. I'm just saying. But listen, the three of you, thank you so much for joining us and giving us an hour of your time. It's interesting trying to figure out the best place to start this conversation, because we have a lot that we're going to be dealing with here. But let's just hit this off the beginning. Can you just give us each briefly? And I'm just going to start, Justin, I'll start with you. Can you just briefly give us an idea about how you currently in your business utilize goal setting when it comes to your sales team? So that way we can get kind of a, really kind of a foundation to play off of here to get that from every one of you. So Justin, start us out.
Yes, sir. So Mark, thank you for having me. Glad to be with Bill and Jody. So goal setting is just for our sales staff, it's become such a layered event. I mean, it's been such a layered process now, just because you come off of 20 and 21, which was a crazy year and, astronomical business. So we've really gone back to 2019, 2020, 22 and kind of looked at that of what we've done. And then, from there, we've really backed into what we want our numbers to be based off of, what we're going to do with marketing, and what's our sales, how many salespeople we have. And then looking at that, the overall, as far as in sales, what our top producers do, what our middle does, and what our bottom does. So, our top producers will do 106,000 a month, middle will do 86, and bottom will do 68. So, looking at that and backing into those numbers, and then defining a goal for them based off of what we need to do, and using real numbers. So, in real metrics, if you got someone that's done 68,000 or average 68, it's hard for them to go and say, hey, this month we need you to do 100,000. So, looking at those numbers there and backing into it, and then just holding them accountable. But most of it's just sitting down. What's your why? What's your purpose? What do you want to accomplish? And, and then digging into those goals and setting those expectations and then tracking that.
Appreciate that. Good start. And Bill, what about y'all?
I guess goal setting really kind of starts at the beginning of the year. We sit down with all of our salespeople and we do a one-page personal plan. So that has to do with life, but also business and what they want to accomplish in the business. And try to get a realistic look at what they feel like they want to accomplish. So you have $1 million rider, what do they want to do the next year? You have a $750,000 rider, what do they want to accomplish the next year? So that would be personal goals. right? That's a little bit different than goal setting in the store, but it's important for somebody to have their own personal goal. And then, a lot of people will actually set up a spreadsheet and track what they need to accomplish on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis to accomplish their personal goal. When it comes to goal setting as a store, we're always shooting for, about 10% over the last year. And to Justin's point, that has to do with a little bit of forecasting in terms of marketing, ad spend, but then we use Friedman Gold Star selling. And that's really how, coming out of the ad budget each week, what the individual store goal is. And then we based our goals on hours worked. So, it's kind of the fairness doctrine. We don't give the $100,000 a month writer a higher goal than we would give the $70,000 a month writer. So it's divided by number of hours worked. And then anything on top of that they accomplish, then we have stretch goals on our goal sheet also. And then we do compensate a little bit more for those hitting those stretch goals that we have on there. But we have our base, really we're shooting for 10% over the last year for that week, based on ad spend and that 10% over. So,
Jody, what about at Interiors Home?
Well, it starts for the way we have done it for many years is starting with the store goal for the next year, which starts in the late fall when I kind of know where we're going to end up, at least a good estimate. And then I go in and just really do an estimate on all of the sales staff and designers to see where I think they could be. But that's, in reality, that's my goal. They have to own their goal. And so after that, it becomes, I share that with our sales managers, what I think they could do. But that's never given to them because they then, the sales managers and store managers sit with the salespeople and designers and really work off of what income they want, because ultimately they have to own their goal. And me saying, I need you to write $1 million this year only works if they are motivated to do that and earn the kind of money they want to earn. So at that point, once we have my goal and then the sales managers work with them and work it all out with their income of what they need to earn to be healthy. And of course, this year with the inflation, no one wants to really make less than they did last year because everything costs more. So we really worked really hard with them saying, you're going to have to up your goal because you want to be able to live the same way you did this year and perhaps get more money too. So then the two come together to see if they work. And my goal is always to have their goals be about 10% more than the store goal, because there's got a big wiggle room. The wiggle room has to be that, not everybody's going to make their goal. So if I have a 10, and it doesn't always work out, my hope is 5 to 10. So if I can get to 10%, in the end, I know it's probably going to work out because some people will exceed their goals and some people won't meet their goals.
I just think it's really interesting. And by the way, I'm listening. I just continue to take notes, and you guys have come up with some tremendous takeaways already. Because what I'm hearing here is that this really starts with. I love the fact that Bill, you called them personal goals. Jody, you just talked about what income they want, what to own their goal. So rather than this feeling like it's always coming down from the top, that it's like, okay, guys, here's your goal this year, and we want X. You're getting personal buy-in on the ground floor first. So I think that's the biggest takeaway here for anybody listening to this is clearly you guys are having success based upon really involving everybody in that process. And I like that because that way then you're helping them figure out what they want to accomplish and how they see their income growing in the year, which I think is fantastic. Before we get completely out of that, there's a couple things that I want to circle back on because I think they were important. So Justin, you talked about the fact that you gave an example of you have basically almost like 3 tiers of salespeople as far as that goes. So Bill was talking about there's that little bit of a expectation difference between your $100,000 a month and your $70,000 a month. So are the goals percentages different for those? Do you expect more from the big guys? For those people listening to this that have a multi-tiered sales team, they know who who their big dogs are and those that are the newbies coming up and doing it. How do you make those goals equitable and make sure that you're not, putting one on somebody that's attainable and the other person that's not attainable?
Yes, sir. So it starts with management. We bring them in, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? Where do you play a role in it? And then, so if the management gets a buy-in on it, then we take it to the sales staff. That's a one-on-one conversation. What kills a sales team, right, is the yo-yo effect. One, RSA might do 130,000 and the next month they do 70,000. And that can be really tough because then it's like, how do you forecast? How do you gauge? And so what we've looked at and what we've studied and how we break it down is, our top producers, it's hard to ask more out of them, right? Because they're the ones giving it every day. They're going in. So we say, hey, if we can get 5% more out of you with an incentive. So this year we implement an incentive of, hey, this is what you've averaged. So, and we've looked at it each month and broke down it by the month for the year. So in January, you might average 120, in February, 150, vice versa. So we said, hey, can we get 5% out of you? That middle tier, 8%, an 8% growth, and then the bottom, a 10% growth. And then we sit down and say, hey, look, if we do this, this, and this, do you think that's attainable? And if you can get that buy-in from them and understanding of, hey, this is what we need from you, I mean, it's unbelievable the results that you can get. And kind of talking with Jody is, what's your why? What's your purpose? What do you want to accomplish?
Yeah, I love that because what you've just said there is really how you manage, and that's, you have to look at your sales team not as everybody is an equal, but where they kind of fit. Bill, one of the things that you talked about is you said about setting a stretch goal. So how do you come to that? Like, let's say that, just use what Justin just said. So you've got somebody that you're let's say you said you love that 10% growth. Let's say there's that 10%. So where do you place the stretch? Is it another 5%? Do you tier it up from there to give them those stair steps to get them up there? Talk a little bit about that, because that's a key element of this.
Yeah, so we want to be 10% over last year as individuals and as a store and as a company. Our stretch goal would be 25% over what our individual store goal is, divided by the number of hours you work as salespeople. So we have 200 hours of total sales on the floor. We divide that up, and then the low goal would be that 10% over, and then our stretch goal would be 25% over that goal.
20. I got to make sure that we're, you're testing my math here. How dare you? So we're talking about a 25. We're not saying 25% year over year. You're talking about 25% more than what that 10% figures out to.
It would actually be 15% more than that. So 25% over last year is what it would be the stretch goal.
Oh, wow. Okay. Gotcha. So you're really putting it out there for somebody to go for that. And then that stretch goal, what's my, without giving away all the company secrets, what's the payoff for me as the salesperson if I hit that 25%?
Well, so at the end of the month, we have, we pay hourly plus bonuses, and that's just an additional bonus at the end of the month. So if you hit your goal, you get an additional bonus for that week, and then you can get bonuses for each week of the month. And then you get a larger bonus if you hit that 25%. We all know consistency is really important, and that's really what it comes down to. And not everybody's going to hit that 25% every week, right? Or every month, or whatever the case may be. But the really consistent people hit that 10% on a regular basis, and we want to push them. We want to give them a little bit more incentive to continue to get out there, and not just, okay, I hit my goal, now I can coast for the rest of the week. We want to make sure that they continue to push themselves.
Is that written or delivered?
That is written.
Because, and this is why I'm coming over to Jody, because I had a wonderful visit to Interiors Home last year, and one of the ways that they really had to help out their employees was you guys really went to more of a written model, and it was, because everybody knows what the pain was like, right, when the faucet stopped. Can you talk a little bit about that piece of it, Jody, from the standpoint of but also talk about, is there a stretch goal, and how are you guys managing that multi-tiered approach to the sales team?
And gosh, I'm trying to think of when we changed over to written. As with probably any company, we have paid in so many different ways throughout my 35 years, from delivered to gross margin to our latest version before written was we paid half and half, which was great because we paid half on written, half on delivered, but it's a bookkeeping nightmare. So we knew that the best thing we could do would be to pay on written. Of course, it's a challenge because you're paying out a lot of payroll and you got cancellations sometimes. But I will say it was a game changer in the fact that it allowed the store managers to really work with the sales staff and motivate them in a way that they couldn't when you're paying on delivered, because here it is, the fourth week of the month, and if you're paid on written and I'm like, all you have to do is say, oh my gosh, do you like your paycheck, because commission's going to be paid that next paycheck after the month ends, for them to be like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get much commission at all. I got to figure this out and I got to get going. So written has been really a great tool, not only for them to receive compensation immediately, but also to for the sales managers to work with these people to really motivate them in the moment. Because I've been on delivered, and it's you don't know what's going to go through. You don't have as much control because, especially during the pandemic, you had no control over when delivered was coming in. So written has been really a huge success for our store, and I can't imagine changing that at that point. It was painful to go through the transition to to pay it all out, because we had to pay out the delivered and then go into paying on written. But it's been a real success. But I just wanted to add a little bit to Justin talking about it's challenging when you have people who are what I call steady eddies that have been with you for years, but they've never, they're a really good writer, but they every year they don't do a whole lot more. And so it's hard, but I've found in my years that, you always have the people that are super aggressive, but you have a team of people who might be doing great work, but you're not going to see them increase every year. And the acceptance level on that can be really difficult and hard to swallow. But, the decision is, are they worth keeping? Sure. You have to realize that they're not going to have a 10 or 20% increase because they're at somewhere in their life where they can't push themselves much further. And that doesn't make them a bad person. It just makes them, you have to then compensate and go, okay, I can only have so many on my team like that because I need to grow the business.
So great lead in to a question that came in prior to the webinar today. And I'm just going to throw this one out here, and I will allow any of you to decide who wants to jump in. I'm not going to focus this, but this is great. It fits in what you're talking about. And the question was how to set goals that improve performance. And I think that's a part of what you're talking about there, Jody, is that you have people that, you said steady Eddie, nothing wrong with that, but right, how do you get them? So let me throw that out there. Do you set goals right now to improve performance, or how can you set goals that will improve the performance of your sales team?
I can start it.
Go for it.
I think like this past year, we had guys that, let's say they delivered 1.6 million. We looked at the income that they made. And what we found is there were some guys that made more money selling bedding or Fabro. So, looking at, okay, can you go after a category, right? Can you improve in bedding to make more money, right? Can you improve in your protection to make more money? So, trying to define that. And then really a lot of it was just one-on-ones, right? In that, trying to figure out, we hope, right? We're in sales that everyone's motivated by money, but they're not. Some people, they're motivated by money or time or recognition. So trying to find out what's those motivation factors that we can go after as a manager, as a leader, that we can tap into, that we can get more out of it, and sometimes it's sitting down to Jody's point, if you've been here 5 years, right? You think as you've been in this profession, you're going to get better. How are you stagnant? How are we going to do? And then trying to work backwards and show them, and the biggest thing for us is, we got, in one store, we got 40 salespeople. We put them all on a graph, and showed them, hey, this is where you rank, and, we love competition and everything else, but, we all want to hire lions and train them not to eat each other. But, you look at it and you're like, man, I'm better than Mark. Well, then why is Mark whooping you every month? like let's look at this and let's go after it, And so, trying to work in that way, but a lot of one-on-ones, and so.
Anybody else want to tackle that?
Yeah,
Goals to improve.
I'll say something real quick about that.
Sure.
You can't set a goal to change a behavior. A goal is not going to change a behavior. That's what management is. That's why we have to be there. P2I, position to impact. We can change some behavior. It really comes down to focusing on, like you said, what one area, one KPI can we work with this person on to improve their sales? You got to do it one person at a time, one metric at a time. You can't just say, go out there and increase your sales per guest, because that's going to make you more money, right?
Because Bill, let me just jump in for a second, because what you're saying, what I'm hearing you say kind of between the lines here is that you need to focus them on a category that you've recognized, that you've identified in looking at them, that either they can grow or they need to grow. Fair enough? I mean, this is why it's not just, hey, just increase your sales.
That's exactly it. I mean, we do weekly metrics meetings with all of our staff, and we identify where is the one spot that you really need to improve or that you can improve, whether it's bedding, whether it's close rate, whatever the case may be, and then we kind of have some fun trying to change behavior also. So we know that if you increase your apps to ups percentage, you're going to increase your average ticket. Because if you do more long-term financing, you're going to have a higher average ticket, you're going to make more sales, so we may do some contests or things like that around those things to help improve that number. Or just as an individual, we're going to focus on that with them for the next 2 weeks. And we're going to ask them every time they get a customer, did you do a financing application? Because we got to get their average ticket up. So
I will just add one thing in there. That's I did spend quite some time chasing after people to make them improve the like, for instance, their average sale and close ratio. Like, maybe if one person had a really low close ratio but a high average sale, sometimes you end up chasing someone to improve what they're not doing well instead of what they are doing well. And I have found really quickly of going, you know what, if someone's really good at their average sale and their designer, stop worrying about that their close ratio isn't as high. And let's focus on what they really do best, which is an average sale. So, I mean, I would love to have them improve on the other one, but sometimes we spend so much time chasing someone to improve something they're not good at. And if we spent that much time improving something they are good at, it would equal just as much money.
The thread through everything we've talked about so far has been this personal approach to this, understanding each salesperson, what they're good at, what they're not good at, so that you can train them in these in the different areas where they need to improve, or you can sort of hyper fuel the areas that they're really good at. Bill, I love what you said about a goal is not going to change behavior. And so there was a ton, and I mean, I'm going to just literally take a whole page of questions and can wrap it up because you guys already have, and that is all these questions about training. It seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's no magic bullet here other than the fact that the effective training is paying attention to your team, communicating with your team, understanding their goals, their wants and desires, what they do well, what they don't do well. And that's everything you need, and even over and above a really cool sales program. It seems to me that that's the answer that I'm hearing from the three of you. Anybody want to amen that or disagree with that? But it sounds like that is the training piece of this, is just paying attention to the people right in front of you.
Yeah, and I think it's that you, if you have any kind of training program, the managers and a sales manager can't coach from their office. You can do one-on-ones in the office, but you can't coach from the office. And the only way you can be sure that your salespeople or designers are doing what you really want them to do and implementing the program is to do observation on the floor and listen to them and see. And then that's the way you can be like, oh my gosh, I heard you say that, and can we talk about that? And then you can review it, because the lip service of, yes, I'm doing that, but are you doing that? So you have to observe.
Great segue. Let me ask Bill, and I'll let you start on this one. So what Jody just said is also something that a lot of people are asking, and that's about, in the setting of the goals and really following up and ensuring that these KPIs are being met, means that you've got to have a really good sales management tier. So talk a little bit about that, because it seems to me that you also got to make sure you're motivating, if you do have that next level, that you got to make sure you're motivating those sales managers to be out on the floor to do that kind of stuff. So how do you, what do you suggest to a retailer out there as far as, those managers are concerned?
Yeah, so I guess it really just depends on the model of your store. There's companies across the country that have selling managers. They don't necessarily have a store manager. They have managers that are out on the floor doing full-time sales, and they're showing everybody how to do it, and that's important too. People need to see how to do things right and how to do things wrong. And the way to do that is to be out there actually doing it yourself.
Modeling, right?
Yeah, even our store managers, they're on the floor selling too. That's that position to impact that I was talking about. You have to be out there. So, Jody, just like you said, you have to be out there and you have to be witnessing it. You have to be looking for opportunities to be able to help somebody to grow as a salesperson. In the end, that's what it is. It's about growth. It's about helping them grow. And when you're out there doing that, you're getting the buy-in from those people. You're not sitting up in your nest, watching on cameras what's going on out on the floor. You have to be out there. You have to get the buy-in. They have to see that you know what you're talking about too. So,
and that you're showing that you're helping them achieve their goals. That's we're talking about this whole goal and performance setting. Justin, go ahead and jump in there as well. Your thoughts?
Yes, sir. So we always say we are what we tolerate, and so as far as the management goes, it's not where you work, it's who you work with. So it's being out on the floor, the awareness. This past year, we called it bottled pressure, right? I mean, the goals, everything comes in. We look at it, and you have to bring the intensity. If you just come out and you're just then you create hectic and chaos. So you look at the management and you say, hey, look, you guys are the tone setters, right? You bring the positivity, you bring the motivation, and you're consistent day to day, not when you want to be, and movement happens in the trenches. When you're in the trenches and you're not making it happen, I think the sales team understands it, right? And you're there and you're available. And you're right, you're not in an office, you're not in a crow's nest, you're not looking from a $10,000 view, but you're down on ground level with them and you're fighting it with them. And I think that's when you get your massive growth and people understand, because you're with them day to day.
And this is a great tie into another point, another question here is that in this goal setting and reaching goals and focusing on this, you each talked about the fact that you start certainly individually, but there are store goals. So also, doesn't this involvement show that you as whether you're the store owner, whether you're the sales manager, whatever it might be, that you are attached to the goals as well, that these goals matter? I mean, if just showing that you're living by goals as well, I mean, isn't that something we should also be modeling to the teams that are out there? Anybody want to jump in on that?
Yeah, just real quick, I will. So when we set our goals at the beginning of the week based on hours worked, we have a certain amount of hours that we set for the managers as well. So they're on the goal sheet. They have a goal that they need to hit as well. And that's public. It's up on the board. Like, everybody sees that. So it's not just us telling everybody else what they have to do. It's us being held accountable for our goal as well, and showing them we have a goal and that we need to hit it too. So,
well, Jody, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was just going to add that I think he's exactly right. The visual for everyone to see who's participating and how much the store goal is so important. I mean, I know we post it in a public area. It's in not public, employee area, public, it's not in the designer's den, but it's like in the lunchrooms, or we have it at the front door.
On the front door, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No, but it's somewhere that even the receptionist and our furniture handlers see it. But it is with the store goal, and we're pretty open about that, because we think that the only way that it will work is if everybody sees what they're participating and what the store goal is and how far away we are every week and every, at the end of the month, everybody's going to know if we met the goal or not. And it's a really big congratulations to the whole team. But there's many stores that don't show it and don't post it. And then it's like, well, if it's a secret, you don't have a buy-in from anybody with a secret.
Damn. Okay. Love that. Now, this is really a heavy word, but this is the way the question came in. So we're talking about, I love this. We're talking about the connectivity, the relationship building with the sales team, management, everybody, all that kind of good stuff. And then somebody asked, they said, so how do you best enforce sales goals? Enforce boy, that's a heavy, heavy word, but okay. So Justin, I'll start with you. So you've got these goals set for your team. You got somebody that's had 3 months in a row that are just below where they should be. So now they're at a deficit. How do you really, and we don't have to use the word enforce, but what do you do now remedially? How do you deal with those that are falling behind in their goals, not meeting their goals?
Yes, sir. So it's a loaded question.
You better believe it. I love it.
Yeah. Bill, why don't you take this one? I'm just kidding. But I think it's on the individual. If I got somebody that we're sitting here looking at and they're really trying and they're really digging deep and they're going, the hardest one is, I think the goal setting, it's okay to fail, right? But you fail with humility. And at the end of the day, right, if you fail, you're trying to do everything you can. If you fail with excuses, I didn't reach my goal because we don't have any products. The delivery messes it up. This is what it is, right? And that's dangerous, because then all of a sudden you become an organization of excuses and we're never going to hit anything because of this, this, and this. So I think when you meet with that or you look at that person, you define why you're not hitting your goals. And in the reality of, if that person, sometimes they just don't cut it, right? Like goes back to what Jody was saying before, we've done everything we possibly can. But I think through those conversations, it's not a surprise, right? They're not shocked that we're having this conversation. So, starts with that leadership, starts with the management. And, at the end of the day, are they good for us? Or are they not good for us? And, we've had great success stories out of it. And then we've had ones where you care about people, right? Sometimes they don't make it and it hurts.
Bill, you got some thoughts on the enforcement issue?
Enforcement, just to kind of echo Justin to a point, and Jody actually. So we also have our quarterly, we have a sheet on the wall pretty much right next to our goal sheet where, were you green last week? Were you yellow or were you red? And you can look across the quarter to see I was red, I was yellow, I was green, I was red. At the end of the month, I was yellow, whatever. But I think it's really important to make sure that people know where they stand. I've made that mistake early in my management career where I just wanted to be everybody's friend, and I didn't do a good job of actually letting them know that, gosh, you know what? You haven't hit a green for 3 months. We got work to do. This is important that we get this thing figured out, because if we don't, this probably isn't going to work out for us. But that being said, let's figure it out together. Let's do this thing, because we can. We just have to, again, go back, look at the KPIs, watch them on the floor, give them help, give them coaching, do what you can to help that person improve. And to Justin's point, at some point, if they're not going to cut mustard, they're not going to. And I've had to get rid of some very amazing people over the years that as a person, they are awesome. And it's very difficult to make that choice and to have that conversation. But here's the thing. Those people appreciate those crucial conversations. I really feel that nobody's going to grow if you're going to be afraid to have a crucial conversation with that person about where they stand. So, yeah.
Transparency is critically important. I'm going to give Jody the ability to pump some fresh air into this conversation, because a question just came in. That's the other side of this. It says, so how do you best celebrate individual goals or team goals? So let's now.
One more time, Mark. How do I celebrate?
How do you guys celebrate individual goals or team goals. So now it's the question of really about, okay, so what's the best way to do that? Because let's face it, it's not just easy to say, well, we just celebrate it, because you also have to make sure that that's not turning somebody else off or motivate. You want to make sure it's still motivating. Not celebrating doesn't always land well with everybody. But give us an idea about that. That's a question that just came in.
Okay. We celebrate monthly with a PowerPoint that is fun and well done from our managers. They have a whole PowerPoint. They're really good at making it. Every month it changes. It's not like as far as the backgrounds and stuff. So it has something to do with what's going on in life. But they do a great job of that. And it's from store goals to top 3 people that were the close ratios. And it's done by store. And so each person celebrated. If they, so a lot of times you might see your name 1 time, you might see your name 3 times. If you achieved your goal, you're going to see your name on that slide. But we try and go through all the categories, and it's not long. I mean, it's probably takes them maybe 15 minutes to do the PowerPoint, but it is a good way, because some people don't get celebrated very often because they might only be good in one area, but they get to see their name. And then of course the store goals is celebrated. But we also provide a monthly spiff to the managers that they can do anything they want with. I mean, anything. And it's per store. And if they want to celebrate their store making goal and give their team lunch, fine. If they want to do gift cards, but it's one thing that we give them free range on, of saying, this is what you have every month, do what you want with it. And they'll do all kinds of different creative ways. But a lot of times they do use it. If it's a really good month and they're celebrating our protection percentage, then they might do something with that. But people like to celebrate. They really do. But it's also sometimes there's a chart that sometimes people are at the bottom of the chart, and it doesn't feel great, but it can be the biggest motivator, that it's like, ooh, I don't want to see my name at the bottom anymore. I'm going to make sure next month I'm not there.
I think it's fair, because this whole concept of setting goals and holding people's feet to the fire, if you're not celebrating it, then it's gonna really be a grind. Bill, what are your thoughts there as well, as far as how to best do that, to utilize it not only in that celebratory way, but as a real motivation for everybody?
We celebrate all the time as a company. One of our core values that we have on the wall and in every location is have some fun, right? And you have to do that. You have to have a good time. So we celebrate in many different ways. Every morning we do a morning huddle. And in that, we identify numbers that we have to hit. We identify the top rider for the month. We look at who had the best protection percentage. But we also read a book called Crave, where we try to take 2 minutes out of every day to look for opportunities for shout outs. And it's not just sales goal based. It's something awesome that you saw somebody do in the store for somebody else. We also send a lot of emails, just talking about how well somebody did on something. I send out a daily email that has the high rider for the day in the company between all of our locations, with some KPIs on there just to keep everybody on track. At our Christmas party, we recognize, we just had our Christmas party last weekend, and we handed out really nice plaques for our $1 million riders, $750 riders. We had them come up and be recognized in front of, oh gosh, I think we had over 100 people or about 100 people at our Christmas party. And that recognition is important. And that does it immediately that day drive sales? No, but it makes them understand that they're appreciated and makes them want to go out and do it again. And I think that's important.
Justin, what about y'all?
Yeah, kind of like what Bill and Jody were saying. I think I'm a big culture guy, and I think celebration is one of our biggest things. Is the recognition daily. We got a big speaker, we got music blasting in the morning, so people coming in. So we kind of set the tone, and we celebrate the day before. We celebrate the month. We got this big championship belt that we give out for the top rider, and then we also give it out to the most improved. So we celebrate people, and and then we do a monthly lunch, with the top rider and the most improved, and then we do a quarterly dinner. So we'll have the group there, same thing, and then we do at the end of the year, our top rider gets a paid for trip, and our biggest improved, and then the same thing with Bill saying was the $1 Million Club. we actually implemented 4 years ago a bonus for longevity. So if you hit $1 million, you get 1,000. Next year 2,000. Next year 3. So it tops out at 5,000. You know, so there's a pretty good incentive, but I think the celebration is one of the biggest keys, because people want to get recognized. And, you know, by having fun and bringing that in the workplace, you can come to work and you can have professional fun, you know.
And I'm not going to make assumptions, even though it's Georgia. You want to tell us what music is generally pumping through these massive speakers as people come in to motivate them?
Well,
What are
you
we
know,
talking about?
usually it's the top, you know, dance put on Spotify, and but, you know, clean.
Clean version.
We got
I like
I love the most improved belt. Like, you know, that's something I really think can help to motivate other people. I think that gets missed in a lot of cases. And I don't know that we miss that, but I think we could do a better job at that, about celebrating, you know, the people that are improving the most, and really give them a shout out too, you know. So I love that. That's great. Do you have the belt? I'd like to see it, by the way.
Exactly. I'm thinking to myself, why is he not wearing the belt? So
You should be sporting that thing.
I saw both Bill and Jody. I could just tell they were like, oh, we're using that. There's no doubt about that.
When we get done, I'll send it to you guys so you can see it.
Thank you.
This is. I mean, what I love about this, in all honesty, is that, you know, that's why we bring you together. Is, you know, this is about sharing ideas, best practices, things of that sort, and all these things are just helpful, and some people can pull, you know, different nuggets from this. I think that's absolutely fantastic. There's been a few more questions that have come in here. I want to ask this one too. You know, we've seen, after that huge price increase over the first number of months in the pandemic, we know prices are coming down. So can you talk a little bit about how, and I'll throw this out, and whoever wants to jump in can, how are you managing your teams when it comes to the fact that perhaps prices are down? We know that still average tickets across the country are still larger, but is this something you've had to deal with folks that are, you know, goal driven, et cetera, that they're having to manage the fact that some prices have been deflating?
I'll jump in.
No?
Yeah, I don't think I've had to, that hasn't been a concern.
Okay, that's a good answer. Bill, what about you?
You know, I think it's all about framing. You know, some of your prices go down on the floor. That's just you can serve your customer better that way. They can just get more things with the money that they were going to spend anyway. You know, you can add that rug on. You can get a set of end tables. You can add the entertainment center. You can, you know, I mean, so it's not about prices coming down. It's about customer satisfaction and building a room that they can live in and love. And it just gives them more options and more ability to do that.
Great way to challenge your sales team. I love that. I think that's fantastic. There's also been some questions that have come in related to technology. You know, as we're talking about, you know, all of these, you know, this you know, goal setting and KPIs and training and things like that, we also know that sales teams, and I don't know specifically for each of yours, but, you know, a lot of times there's technology involved as far as, you know, whether it's point of sale or things of that sort. So are there things there that retailers need to be aware of, so that they're not implementing, you know, technology pieces and things that are going to cause issues for the sales process and things of that sort? I mean, does that even play into it when you think about adding technology to your sales? Go ahead, Bill, you're nodding.
Yeah, I mean, we're a very technology-based company. I think the most important thing, like you said, is you got to keep it clean. Just give them the tools that they need. Don't clutter it, you know. So we use Google and a Google toolbar, and we have everything that they would need in terms of price lists, links, all that stuff on the toolbar. And then all of our sales associates have an iPad. So in their hand at all times, they have everything that they could possibly need. Yes, I mean, we have kiosks around the store also to go and write tickets and do financing and things like that. But those small technology pieces, as long as you don't clutter it, are unbelievably helpful. You know, so we could have one person with an iPad have a customer sitting on a couch filling out financing paperwork while they're over at a kiosk writing a ticket for another one, and they can bounce back over. I mean, there's just so many aspects there, but again, It's got to be consistent across the board. It's got to be trained very well in the training process. You can't just give it to them and let them go. Like, there has to be processes for the way that you use your technology. And if you have those processes in place, I tell you what, it makes life a lot easier for everybody.
And that's a motivational piece as well, right, Jody? I mean, you would agree with that.
Definitely. I will say the one thing that I think has changed is that, obviously we have an older customer clientele. I mean, most of them probably, our major base is probably 40 to 60 years old. And, there's still a part of that population who are not tech savvy. And so our team all has they have a Surface or an iPad, and they're like, oh, let me show you on here, and the customer's like, can I look at a catalog? We're like, well, and then you go into well, they're not really printing catalogs anymore, and so it's still a challenge because the baby boomers are like, can I have the catalog? And we're like, no, there's no catalog. So some of that's been a challenge, and we had an older sales staff that it was hard to get them on board of using the Surfaces to price everything out, and they're like, can't we just print the price book? No, we can't print the price book anymore. So it's been a challenge to get everybody, and now we're trying to get them to, as soon as the person walks out the door, to send the text and thank them for coming in, and that's like, what? You want me to do what? So it's just a new way of doing business. And if you've been selling and doing furniture sales for years and years, it can be a big challenge, a hurdle for them to get over.
But again, as we're talking about performance and setting goals and things, to both of your points, you don't want the technology to be the stumbling block here, because if it is, then it's also affects the store goals as well. Justin, I'll let you jump in there as well.
Yes, sir. So we have Microsoft tablets as well, and iPads, and I think what Bill and Jody was saying was just the rollout of it, right? The training. You can have all these tools, but if you don't utilize it, and it's not uniform, then you're right, it can be a big hindrance on what you're doing, or some will do it. Some will resist it and fight it, and it's one of those things of sticking with it and going through it, and technology is not going away. It's advancing more and more, and then you get one thing figured out, and that's old. So how can you use technology to your advantage? How can you continue and with the staff, to Jody's point, you're the older sales associates, spending more time with them, getting it comfortable, because nothing's more awkward in front of that customer where you're trying to go through and they're fumbling through, then they're frustrated, and they're like,
100%.
then it's an excuse,
Yeah, Bill mentioned training. I mean, if that's not a part of it, then you're just asking for trouble.
When it comes to goals too, as sales managers, we're selling every day. We're selling all of our people on what's going to help them and how is it going to help them. So in terms of the technology piece, we need to sell them on how this is going to help them accomplish the goals that they have for themselves and the goals that are set before them. And I think that's an important part of it, because we're in a world of technology. And so we just got to do a really good job of selling them and making them understand that these are just tools that are going to help you do better. Right. And then do the training and make sure that they are confident and comfortable doing it.
Yeah, very, very well said, all three of you. I appreciate that. So this is an interesting question that just came in. It said, and I want to paraphrase afterwards a little bit here, but it says, how do you measure the ability of a sales associate to develop meaningful relationships with their clients? So if we're going to take that question and really overlay it properly with this discussion about goal setting, reaching goals, and performance, this is really that repeat clientele. This is really about building your customer base. So can we talk a little bit about that, so that's not lost in the middle of just the numbers and what we're trying to achieve from a growth standpoint? Do you think is there something there, and do you really focus them on that to make sure that it's not just transactional, one and done, see you later?
Yeah, we have a 35% return customer base, and we always talked about trying to create a raving fan. So when that customer comes in, how are you going to be different? Walking it all the way through, followed up, our sales associates get paid off delivered. So, you know, making sure they're following all the way through. You know, and we're not perfect on this, but, you know, thank you cards, you know, writing thank you notes. Yeah, we use text, we use, you know, and we use Podium, but it's one of those things of how can, you know, right now, you know, you want to steal market shares. You can buy furniture anywhere. So when people come in, you got to set the tone, and you got to be different. So it's with the staff and how they interact with the customers.
Jody?
I also love to track the fact that, you know, we have a lot of interior designers on staff, but, you know, my goal is for them to have a lot less traffic, and they're either developing their own or they're living from their personal trade or their referral trade. And so if I see someone who is writing big business and they're really not taking many people off the door, that's a win-win, because they're developing their people to the next level without having to take a door person, which cost us a lot more money. So, I mean, we do a lot of looking at how their trade, their personal trade is, and if they are not taking a lot of people off the door, it's all good for us. There's plenty of salespeople who just live off of the door, and they like to just see the door go, 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 and get the next person. But for those who want to be work really smart and efficiently, for them to develop a personal trade, it's just easier, less customers, bigger sales.
And Bill, I'll let you jump in here too, but it's helping them reach these goals that you guys are trying to stretch them to, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, to Jody's point, an RSA can only effectively take so many people. I mean, you can't just burn through customers, because if you want to have repeat business and you want people to continue to come in the door, you know, our mission statement as a company is to have exceptional impact on people. So, you know, it really starts with the first contact you have with a customer. And, you know, ideally it never ends. You know, you follow up with, we have people that are excellent on social media, that do a great job following up. You know, we do follow-up calls with our customers because we pay on written and delivered both. And that way they, you know, we make sure they follow through with that opportunity until it's in the customer's home, but it doesn't need to stop there. What's the next item needed? You know, it's a good phone call to make after the delivery. Ask them how much they love their items, and ask, you know, where the hole's at. Try to get them back in the door. The customer's not going to be upset with you for trying to serve them. You know, and I think that's really how you have an exceptional impact on somebody.
And also let's, you know, the word that Jody used, which is just gold, is referrals as well. It's not just that customer coming back, but it's who that customer can influence.
Yes.
You know, the person that comes in their house and sees the beautiful, you know, new living room they have, et cetera, and how, you know, how that all happens. I always like to steal the line. I mean, you know, ours is all about serving our, you know, our members, and, you know, we're very much, you know, we have to be value driven. And I steal the USAA line. You know, I want members for life, you know, and you guys want customers for life, the people that when they have a need, there's no question where they're going to go. And that's, so I love it. I appreciate you guys answering that, because that's a little bit of a soft skill aspect of this, but it still is uniquely tied to this whole attitude of goals and getting people to achieve and to grow, et cetera. One last thing that I wanted, because we're coming rapidly to the end here, and I'm shocked. I looked up and I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it, because this has been just a wonderful conversation. But a couple of quick things here that I'd like you guys to deal with here. Jody, you mentioned it a little bit. Beyond the you know, the paycheck, if you will, as far as you know, hitting these different goals and potential bonuses, are there any other incentives that work? You know, you talked about some of the things that you guys do for your sales manager, but Justin and Bill, what about y'all? Are there other incentives, because people are looking for ideas? Are there other little incentives that help you think, in driving the goals and achieving the goals for the individuals on your team?
I'll just throw one thing out there, and this isn't necessarily an incentive, but making people understand what their life goals are. A lot of people really don't think about where they want to be in 1 year, 5 years, or anything like that. You know, so this year we had everybody do a dream board and hung them in the break room. And, you know, I mean, people put family and travel and a new car and like all these things on their dream boards. And it's not necessarily an incentive or a spiff or a bonus or anything, but in the end, it really is kind of an incentive. It's an incentive for somebody to walk into the break room every day and see their dream board up there and really start to think about, you talked about how much money do you want to make this year? Well, how much money am I going to have to make to go on this trip to Costa Rica or whatever? So
they're looking right at their why, right? I mean, that's
exactly.
their why, right? And that's I think that's a beautiful comment. Justin, what about y'all?
Yes, sir. So the management, they're incentivized off of sales per up. The mattresses protection. So they have their different incentives monthly and quarterly, and then the sales is going to be the commission, and then we implemented this year the that delivered bonus, if they hit that above, just to to push out the delivered business. So that's what we got.
Okay. And Jody, I'm going to ask you another, this is related, another question came in and somebody asked, what are some great sales games or competitions you can use? Do you guys do anything along those lines as well? I mean, you all talked about the like cool stuff you do, but I'm just wondering specifically about any games or competitions that also keep things interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I always say sometimes it feels like the Price is Right around here because our managers are really good at that type of thing. And I'm like, and I've often asked them, like, does really anybody like to do that? But we have invested in the prize wheel, and like, say you sell, like this month, if it's you sell protection plan, every time you sell it, you get to spin the wheel. I'm like, and I always think to myself, really, does someone want to do that? But guess what? Somebody comes right to the manager's office and says, can I spin the wheel? And then it's, it could be like a bottle of alcohol, which probably isn't the best prize, but just saying.
Oh, we're not talking about rubbing alcohol?
Lottery tickets. But I will say that people I think it goes back to Bill or Justin, who had the fun statement? Was that you, Bill? It's like, right, having fun.
Have
And
some
so
fun. Yeah.
maybe that's what it is. It's just a lot of fun. I mean, I know the one manager actually did the putt. She had the kids golf clubs and a putting range. And like, if they did something, they got to putt, and if they got a hole in one, they got a prize. I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, whatever, but everybody liked it. It was fun. It made people laugh. And so that might be the key right there. It just has to be something that's really outlandish that is fun.
I got to make a quick comment because what I loved about what you just said is that you also left it to them. You said, I don't understand why the putting thing would be fun.
I don't.
But you facilitated and you allowed it and they enjoyed it. Well, I think that's a wonderful little lesson toward the end of this conversation is don't always think you've got the best ideas. Listen to your people.
It's so true.
Bill, what were you going to say about games and competitions real quick?
Oh, we're always doing something. Well, we're doing quarterly competitions. We're doing weekly, weekend spiffs, whatever the case may be. One thing, like with our quarterly competitions we do is we try to incorporate everybody in the company. So we have salespeople, but we also have delivery specialists. We have an admin team. We have all kinds of people. So for those contests, we try to figure out ways that everybody can be included in that. And in the end, that drives company satisfaction, employee satisfaction throughout the entire company because we want our delivery specialists to be happy too, because if they're not, they're going to be slamming furniture around, then we're going to get a return. And then that affects our goals and our sales and everything else. So I feel like it's important to try to bring everybody together if you can.
Awesome. Believe it or not, that pretty much is the time we have today. But I want to mention before I let you all go that we have an awful lot for you to help you improve sales on our website. You just go.myhfa.org/sales, and we have so many elements there that can help you. I also want to mention that we've also successfully launched the HFA Sales Academy. There's much to do about that on our website as well. You really want to take a look at it because there's some great opportunities there and great tools for you to use. But I have to tell you, this has been a great start to the year. What a phenomenal webinar this has been, and you guys have just been terrific, and just so many takeaways that I almost have to get another pen. I want to thank Justin Padden from Georgia Furniture Mart. I want to thank Bill Kretz from Home Trends and Jody Ottle from Interiors Home. You guys have been great. I'm gonna say what I always say at the end of these webinars. I wish the three of you and all of our members, I wish you good sales, good health, and I can't wait until we all come back together again for the next webinar. The three of you, thank you so much. And everybody else, enjoy your week.